Hello and welcome. I hope everybody had a restful weekend and you are ready to hit the week running and face whatever it is that needs to be faced today. My name is Evelyn Knight. I am the CEO and founder of Childcare Business Professionals and the host of the Childcare Business Coach podcast. If you haven't listened to my last podcast episode, you got to listen to it with Tony Childs. It is just amazing. It's my favorite interview I've done so far, so just insightful and inspiring. So make sure that you listen to that episode. It is amazing. Maybe a member of my team can drop the link to the episode in the comments. That would be awesome. So I don't know what you are facing today, but some of us will be facing giants. And it's not always easy, is it? I am going through a season in my own life where things are just not easy. And, I've been through a lot. It's not the first time, but it feels different this time. And it's interesting as I analyze what's going on, I always think about you and how everybody else relates. As somebody who really, well, basically focused my education on psychology, even though I don't practice. I do have degrees in psychology. And I'm also a certified life coach. And so I'm always thinking about the relatability. And I just look at life as a science, right? And I look at the human brain, and we're all basically the same, but we're also different. But the way we function is the same. So I'm always wondering, whenever I go through something, who else is struggling with this too? And right now, I'm in a situation of struggle where I'm finding it very hard to pinpoint the root and just also to really, I guess, admit that it's a struggle. And part of the reason it becomes so hard for me is because here I am. I'm a mindset coach. I'm a life coach. I have degrees in psychology. I've studied the neuroscience of the brain for 14 years, right? So there's a part of me that feels like I should have all the answers. I shouldn't need help. I should just know what to do. I shouldn't be struggling, right? I never navigated the death of my husband, for goodness sakes. I should be able to walk into anything at this point, take it on, and be fine. I shouldn't have weaknesses. So, how many of you does that resonate with? That when you have that weakness, that moment of weakness, it makes you feel like you are weak. You put that label on yourself. If you're like I do, I have a very hard time with asking for help. It's something I have to consciously force myself to do, unless I'm paying for it. Like if I am paying for somebody's services, I don't have quite as hard of a time asking for help because that's different. I'm hiring someone to do a task, right? But if it's just calling a family member or a friend and just saying, hey, I just need help. I'm at a point in my life where I don't know what to do on my own. I need someone to come alongside me and lift me up. That is incredibly hard for me, incredibly hard. I am so used to being the person who does the lifting. I lift everybody up. It's what I do. I have people who come around me and they just know I lift, right? So when it's my turn to be lifted, it's very, very hard. And it makes me feel like, I guess it gives me some sort of the imposter syndrome where how can I go and help you? How can I do Mindset Monday? How can I go in and lead a team? How can I lead my children if I don't have all the answers? And as I was thinking this weekend and really just working through this, and I basically, whenever I hit a situation like this where I'm really struggling with something, I will take sometimes a couple days and I will just dive into it. And I know that's really hard for a lot of people. A lot of people like to tiptoe around it, stay in denial. They like to basically just bury it, right? And to a certain extent, there's been things that I bury too. But I know when I'm burying something. I know I can feel, and you do too, right? Deep down, that voice in the back of your head, you know it. You may not want to admit it, but you know it. So what I found is that when you face it head on, it makes it so much easier. You do have that initial pain, that initial suffering, right? And it is intense, but it stops the prolonged pain and suffering. So this weekend, I sat with myself and I really deep dived into me and the fact that I have to have all the answers. And a couple things came up for me. The first one was that there are certain lies about myself I've been believing that people have put on me. And so that was something that really struck me. And I wanted to really talk to you about. As we're growing up as children, we're young adults. Even now in your life, you may have this happen, but people will say things to you that really hit home and resonate. And you start believing them about yourself. People will label you as something, right? And when you get labeled with that, you believe it and it becomes what's called a self fulfilling prophecy. You start living it. So that's part of what I was looking at this weekend, where I just was trying to really find those labels that were put on me. Right. So think of the things as a child that you were, names that you were called, things you were told. Were you told you're lazy? Were you told that you just weren't good at math? I mean, it could be simple as that, right? Oh, it's okay that they get bad grades in math because they're just not good at math, but that's just not how their brain works. It could be as complicated as, well, you're just not as smart as your sister, or you're just not as smart as your brother, but that's okay. You have other talents. You're just not college material. Or maybe you'll amount to nothing if you don't go to college, right? I am here to tell you right now, those things that were said to you were lies. They're not your truth. Only you get to decide what your truth is. The labels that people put on us are not truth. They are not truth. They are their opinions. They are the opinions of others. And those opinions are based on those other people's personal experiences. Sometimes people really just can't fathom you because they don't have the relatability. They don't understand. I've never been homeless in my life. I can't imagine what it's like. I can't even begin to because I don't have that experience. So if I walk by somebody in the grocery store who smells really bad, let's say, and I know this is a terrible example, but it's the first one that popped into my head. I'm going to just assume that they have horrible hygiene, right? I'm like, oh, that person needs to go take a shower. They got horrible hygiene. And my judgment brain is just going to jump to those conclusions. When in reality, maybe that person got kicked out of their house. They can't afford to go somewhere else and they're living out of their car and don't have access to a shower, right? So that's exactly what happens to every single one of us. Everybody's limited experiences causes people to jump to conclusions about us. And a lot of times those conclusions are spoken to us, at us. And then we make those conclusions our truths. Don't let that happen to you. Look at the labels, the things that you think you are, the weaknesses that you have in your life. Ask yourself and write them down. Write them down and cross them out. One of my favorite exercises to do is in one column, write down those negative characteristics that are really holding you back right now. The things that you've been told that you are, right? I've been told I'm very flighty. And so I'd write flighty down. And then on the second column, I'm going to write why that isn't true. Growing up, I was always, oh, she's the flighty one. My brother actually has a genius IQ. And so growing up, I was the child that came after the genius. And so I really thought I was just stupid. And it really wasn't anything that was said to me, and it wasn't anything that was done intentionally. But as I saw my brother being lifted up for being smart, I assumed, well, if he's smart, I must be dumb because I'm not like him, right? And I would hear people talking about my brother, and I would see the awards he was getting. I would see him skip a grade and then skip another grade. And it graduating from high school by 16, right? And having degrees before he was even 20. And it just hit me that, well, if that equals smart, then I must equal dumb. And up until I was a junior in high school, I actually really thought I was dumb. And someone actually said to me, "Wow, you're the smartest person I've ever met." And I'm like, "No, I'm not smart. I'm the dumb one, right? I'm the one who needs extra help." My mom also didn't really understand. I mean, I think a lot of times we judge parents a lot just so unfairly because as people in early childhood education, we're exposed to so many children. We know what children are like, right? But parents don't. They're not exposed to all the children we're exposed to. So the only children that they really know are their own children. To them, that is normal. My brother is older than me. My mom, before he was diagnosed and they actually had him tested, my mother thought that he was normal. He was her oldest son. That was her benchmark. So when I came along after him and really struggled, she thought that I was special needs. She thought there was something wrong with me. And she made up lots of stories on what was wrong with me. And I believed them. And my schools believed them. My schools, I remember very vividly in the second grade being put to the side. And this is before they had special needs classrooms. Plus, I went to a private school that didn't have access to any of that. So, our second grade teacher took me and another little boy, and they put us completely away from the rest of the classroom because we were labeled as children who couldn't keep up and who couldn't do the work. And a lot of that stemmed from what my mom told them about me, right? Because she really believed it. She compared my brother to me and really believed that I was slow for some reason before she realized it wasn't until he hit the seventh grade that they tested him and figured out what was really going on. But I internalized that and I believed it. I believed it about me for a long time. I believed that there was something wrong with me and that I wasn't smart because if this is smart, then I must be slow, right? Even after my brother was tested and they found out that he does have a genius IQ, I still believed I wasn't smart until someone pointed out to me and really actually showed me. They showed me by comparing others around me in my age group how I was actually ahead of the game. And then I had a couple high school teachers too who always just told me like, "Oh wow, you're really really smart." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm not." Since then, I've learned a lot about IQ and I understand it more now. And I understand that my brother, there's this middle point. My brother's way over on that genius level. And I understand that that doesn't mean that I'm not smart. I did have a low IQ. So those are the kind of things, though, had I not met that person who told me I was smart, I probably would have believed for my entire life that I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't good enough, right? What are the labels that people put on you? Have you been told you're lazy? Have you been told that you're never going to amount to anything? Or you just can't figure this out? Or something more serious, like you're just not capable of being in um, a successful relationship. Because what happens is we start believing those things about us and we make them true. We make them true. When I was younger, I was made to feel weak. And so being weak is one of my biggest fears. Being mentally weak is absolutely like to me, I can't handle being mentally weak. I have to be strong. I have to be strong. Sometimes, though, we can't, right? Boy, did I learn that last year, over the last 4 years. And I swear, God allows experiences in our life in the areas we really need to grow. And over the last 4 years, gosh, I could even say 10 years, God has allowed me to see that sometimes it's okay to be weak. And as a God girl, I have to, as I'm saying this, I remember, of course, it's okay because I am strong. When I am weakest, I am strongest through Him, right? When I rely on Christ, I am strongest through Him. And that is just so liberating to me to know that I don't always have to be strong. I don't always have to have all the answers. This weekend, when I sat with myself and had to ask, what is going on with you? And that's literally what I'll do. Because sometimes I don't know what's going on, right? I'm just in this funk and I just can't, like, I'm going through the motions of life. I'm showing up every day. I'm doing my job. But at the end of the day, it's that unsettledness in my brain. And I know I'm out of balance. There's something not right. And some of you guys live in that. You live in that feeling of unsettled, and you don't even know that your life is lacking joy. You know, maybe that you're not happy, but you don't know that you can take control of that. You get to choose. Nobody can make you unhappy. No job, nothing going on around you, your situation, nothing but your thoughts, but you can make you unhappy. It's how you choose to approach everything. It's how we interpret everything around us that makes us feel a certain way. And yeah, it's hard, right? I'm not going to say that you can be happy all the time and joyful. I mean, we're not meant to be that way. Sadness, anger, all of those emotions are there to serve a purpose and they're healthy for us. But even in the darkest times, there are moments where you can find joy. I know I am always joyful. I may not be happy. I may be upset. I may be sad. I might be heartbroken, but I always have joy in my heart, right? I may not feel it right now, but I always have joy because I understand that's my choice. And I'm going to, if I feel like that joy is slipping away from me, I'm going to sit with myself for a weekend and I'm going to really analyze what's going on in my brain. I'm going to pick it apart and I'm going to make myself face it because life is too short to live without joy. It's just too short. My husband died at 49 years old. And I just look at how short his life was. And I just realize it's not worth it. It's not worth prolonging the pain, right? For some of you, and I used to be this way, where I wouldn't want to just rip the band-aid off, right? I would pet my pain. I would nurture the pain. And I was so afraid to face the pain that I would sit in it and it's like a plant, I would just water it and let it grow and grow and grow. I've learned the hard way, the really hard way, that it's so much easier, you guys, if you just rip off the band-aid, face it, admit it to yourself, face head on what it is that you got to face. Get it over with. Otherwise, years later, years, you guys, you're going to be sitting in that pain still. It's still going to be calling the shots of your life. Your life today is a result of how you've dealt with that. Are you allowing things to dictate your life that are unsettled because you're afraid to face them? It is so much easier to face it. Get it out. It's painful. I'll tell you, I had moments this weekend where I cried and I cried and I cried. And I cried the ugly cry, not just little tears, but the ugly, like, I just got to get this out of me cry. But when it was over, it felt so good. It's over, right? I got it out. Things I didn't even know were in there because I just sat with myself and took the time to let it out. And it's not easy, but it's so helpful. And now, today, I can face the world the way I'm supposed to. I can go do the hard things I need to do. I can be the person I need to be for my children, for my team, for everybody in my life. I can be her today because I got rid of what would have held me back. Had I not done that this weekend, I probably would have not faced today, right? Things that need to be done. But facing what I needed to face, getting it out of me, helps me to see what I need to do and helps me to be the person I need to step up to be. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. It is not easy, but it's worth it because now I can deal with issues, right? So that these issues aren't an issue for me a year from now. And it is hard. It's really hard for me to admit sometimes in those moments of weakness where I'm not always strong. And I'll tell you this weekend as I was thinking about it, and I just really felt like I kind of like to think of analogies, right? And I felt like I'm like this porcelain teapot right now. And I feel like if I fall, I'm just going to shatter all over the floor. And to me, that is one of the like most awful things because weakness to me, it for me in my own life, weakness disgusts me. And if you know human emotions, when you go to, there's like different levels, right, of emotion. And we go, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember what they are, but you've got like happiness, joy, anger, hate. Disgust is at the very end. Disgust is like the biggest, right? And so that's where I realized like I really got to deal with this. I cannot allow something like a weakness to disgust me because I'm human. And there was literally a moment this weekend where I had to say to myself, it's okay to be a human. You don't always have to be perfect. You don't always have to be strong. You can be human. And then there's a voice in my head that says, I can't. I don't have time. I don't have time to be human. My team needs me. My family needs me. The people, my friends need me. The people in my life need me. I don't have time for a human moment. And I just basically go through this and hash it out. Journaling helps a ton. Get some paper out when you do this and really just write back and forth. One of my favorite journal exercises is if you tap into your inner child and write with your left hand. And you literally have a conversation with yourself where like the problems are coming out with your left hand, all the things you need to get out, all those really hard things. And then you respond with your right. But when you respond with your right, you respond in a very loving, kind way. And this is a huge exercise, you guys, that I wish I had more time to explain. It's a study that was done years ago on how to tap into your inner child. I've done all the research on it. And when you're tapping into your inner child, basically because your fine motor skills were being developed during those very young age. And if you're not, well, if you're not left-handed, using your left hand kind of taps into that time of your life with the motor skills, and it helps you to bring things out that are buried really, really deep. If you're left-handed, you want to do it with your right hand. You just basically want to write with your non-dominant hand. But just there's a lot more to it, a lot more. The other thing you could do, now I'm thinking like as I'm thinking it through, it's like, oh, this is like a whole other lesson. But is you can write in different color inks. That's another thing I'll do sometimes. Like when I'm spilling my heart on paper, I'll write with red ink and just write. And then when I respond to myself, I'll write with a different color ink, like a purple ink or something like that, so that it does differentiate the different voices, right? And a lot of times when I respond to myself, I don't give myself a whole lot of room sometimes. I'm not always kind to myself. And I'll just be saying things like, well, you just need to put your big girl pants on, suck it up, and get out there. Just deal with it. Just be strong and deal with it. And I've really had to teach myself to be kind to myself. It's so easy to be kind to others, isn't it? But sometimes we really struggle with being kind to ourselves. And so a lot of times I'll ask myself, if I had someone else come to me, one of my clients, or even my son, let's say, came to me and said the things that I just wrote out and read, right? When I poured my heart out. If my son came and poured his heart out to me, how would I treat him? Would I tell him, get back out there and suck it up? Just why are you whining? What do you have to whine about? Which is how sometimes I talk to myself. I ask myself, how would you talk to Ronan? Would you treat him like that? And I'll step back and answer myself the way I would answer someone else and show myself that kindness. And it really does help to get it out, to get it past, because a lot of times when we have these things, and they happen in seasons, you guys, it doesn't mean like it's never a one and done, which is kind of what it's hard to deal with because it's like, I just did this. I don't want to do this again, right? It's like this wrestling with ourselves. But when you get these things out, you can show up. When we leave them in, it makes it so hard to show up. So give yourself that. Maybe out this weekend. It's a big task. Watch this again on Friday. Saturday, prepare yourself. Give yourself a couple hours, even if you get up a couple hours before the kids or stay up later than the kids, whatever you need to do. Give yourself some time. Otherwise, you're not going to get off the hamster wheel you're stuck on. Is what you're doing now working for you? If it's not, then give yourself time. You've got to start doing the work. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I really hope I planted a seed and that you will take this to heart and you'll start doing the work. It's so important to be there for you, because if you don't show up for you, you can't show up for others. Have a wonderful rest of your week, everybody.